let's talk about more recent stuff, Anna, because I think you entered the space in kind of at the same time as I did in 2021. And yeah, I'm just curious on how did you discover blockchain and NFTs, and how did you start to publish your work in the digital medium? You said you had a blog, so you were kind of you were already publishing works online, but the usage of the blockchain, when did you discover that, and how did it affect your work?
Well, I was already digitizing my poems. I always felt that the life of a published poem was so quiet, was so insular, almost anticlimactic. You know, when you publish traditionally, usually you submit, you often have to pay for somebody to read your work.
Hmm.
You can wait up to a year or longer to hear back. Most
Hmm.
often than not, you will be rejected. Um, any published writer knows the reality of every single work that makes it out into the world has been rejected dozens and dozens of times. I have an essay coming out in a really wonderful publication soon, and it's been rejected. I counted 45 times before
Wow.
somebody accepted it. So yeah, it's definitely you get really thick skin as a writer. But even when things are published, and it's really exciting to be published in reputable journals that sort of build your career in a traditional sense, you don't really know who reads your work, and lots of these publications don't have massive distribution. They don't have a digital component, so they're expensive too for people to buy. $20, $18. They can be
Hmm.
so who you don't really know who's going to read your work once it's
Hmm.
published. Um, so I was transforming them, translating them into the digital realm, into Instagram. Very simple, these little simple animations, and with a sound component with my voice, because I've always really liked adding my voice
Hmm.
to my work. And when I read about Web3, it just made so much sense to take these works that were already in existence and put them on platforms.
Hmm.
It felt very intuitive. It made immediate sense to me. And I also wanted right away to start a digital poetry gallery to not only share my work, but the work of others with whom I was, intimately in contact. And I dove in, and I was invited to be part of a collection called Ether Poems
Hmm.
that happened that minted
Um,
first directly onto the Ethereum blockchain. So it was on-chain poetry
mhm.
that is it was doable because gas at that point wasn't expensive. It
Mhm.
then turned really expensive, and that affected the collection's success actually. But that's how it all kind of began for me.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I remember Ether Poems on Ethereum. That was quite interesting, and I remember also you jumping on the Twitter Spaces and reading your poetry very early, both in English and Spanish. I remember that. That's how I got to know um, your writing in on Twitter Spaces back in 2021. And yeah, things have moved fast from there, and like you have, I mean, I think you have worked nonstop from for the past 2 years, right? Working on your writing and publishing, and with the verse. And what are your thoughts, Anna? Because I think many artists struggle with this, in developing your audience, your community, your collectors. So how how do you approach that? What do you do? Do you do anything in particular? Maybe something that you see others aren't doing? How have you managed to, continue to work in your writing and continue to publish online and develop your audience? Any advice for artists in the space regarding that?
I really believe in what I'm doing. I really believe that poets need to participate in the art market in a meaningful way, and I really want this to want my efforts to translate into opportunities for other poets in the future. So when you have a conviction and a mission, I think it's almost inevitable. Like you almost cannot help but work and devote yourself to it. I'm very hardworking. I've worked since I was a teenager, in my writing and in the real world as well, in my jobs. It's something that is within me. It's how I tick. Um, so I think that hard work comes naturally to me. I enjoy working.
Mhm.
I enjoy waking up before dawn and sitting at my desk and getting things done and sharing what I love to do. But I think that you know, getting a little bit more nitty gritty, perhaps Twitter Spaces really helped me. Like
Mhm.
you said, I think that it's really important for artists to get on Twitter Spaces. A lot of them are hesitant, and really, you only learn by doing.
Mhm.
I think we've all fumbled our way through Twitter Spaces, and eventually we get our groove. We know what to say, how to say it, and say it quickly. Um, and it's something you just need to hone and practice. Nobody, is born knowing how to present themselves on Twitter Spaces, but I think that's something really really useful, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think that sharing your work online and learning how to thoughtfully transmit what you're about is going to only be useful when opportunities present themselves in real life, when you have calls with curators, when you have interviews.
Mhm.
So, Twitter Spaces are available. They're always there. You can always request the mic. I
Mhm.
think that's a really useful tool for artists active in Web3. And connecting with other artists, of course, is key as well. Building
Mhm.
your own support system and community is crucial.